Hello everyone, welcome to Alessef channel and another Flutter tutorial. In this tutorial, we'll design a home screen for a car rental app with an animated image slider, custom bottom navigation, and beautiful car listings. In the previous videos in this playlist, I created a project, did the initial setup, and implemented the onboarding and authentication screens. You can watch the previous videos first or just watch this video and move on. Let's get started. First, I create a new feature for home screen and add the required directories to the project. I create a directory for data layer and a directory for presentation layer. And then within the presentation layer, I create 3 directories for blog, screens, and widgets. In this project, I'm using blog, but you can use any other state management. Now I create a new file for the home screen. I import the material package and create the stateless widget class. And now I add a scaffold and an app bar. Now I go to the main file and replace the authentication class with the home screen class, and I reset the project. Now let's implement the home screen. I previously exported the image used in this screen from Figma, and now I add them to the project. And then I add the required icons. I use the Flutter gem package for asset addressing. You can also use this package or directly address the assets. Now I call the command related to this package to generate the necessary classes. Now I'm going back to the home screen and starting the implementation. First, I want to implement the app bar widget. I create a file named main app bar and add a stateless class for a general app bar inside it. Now I return to the home page and import the class I just created. Next, I need to create an avatar for user profile. So I create a new file and import the material package and add a stateless class to it. I add some padding around it. And inside the padding widget, I place a size box widget. This widget takes the width and height as a parameters. So I can reuse this widget with different dimensions elsewhere. And inside the sizebox widget, I add an avatar widget to display the user's profile picture. Now I go back to the app bar widget I created, import the profile picture widget, and then I refresh the project and you can see the result. Now let's implement the widget for displaying the user's location. I create a new file named user location, and add a stateless class inside it. And then I place a row widget inside it to display the user's city and the location icons side by side. Here's how I'll do it. Now I return to the upper widget and add a column widget. And inside it, I add a text widget to display the location title. And then I import the user location widget into it. And now I refresh the project and you can see the result. Now let's implement the menu icon together. In the global widgets directory of the project, I create a widget named appborder.icon button. And then add a stateless class inside it. Then I add the required parameters to the class. And then include an icon button wrapped in a container with a border. I also import the required classes. Now I go back to the upper widget, add horizontal spacing with the padding widget, and inside the padding widget, I add the widget I just created. Now I refresh the project and you can see the result. Now let's build the bottom shade together. First, I create a Cubit class to manage the current index and switch between tabs. As you can see, I implement the state class, then I go to the Cubit class, set the selected index to 0, and now I create a method for selecting the index to switch between tabs. Now I return to the home screen class, and inside it, I provide the qubit I just created in the home screen. I call plug provider widget, and then I pass bottom navigation qubit to it. Now I call the watch and read methods for the qubit class. And then I create a directory for the tabs and add a new file for the home tab inside it. I import the material package and I place a stateless class inside it. And then I add three more tabs for history, search, and product in this directory. Now I go back to the home class and create a list of the tabs I just made. All right. Now I replace the app scaffold class with the scaffold class because I don't want my homepage to be constrained on the large devices. In the body, I place the tabs and get the selected tab index from the Qubit class. Then, as you can see, I start implementing the bottom navigation. First, I give the bottom navigation a color using colored box widget. And then I round the top corners with the clip rect class. After that, I add the bottom navigation bar widget, give it a background color, and copy a color code from Figma to add it the project. Then I complete the current index parameter and then untap method. Now I set the bottom navigation bar type to fixed. Set the selected item color to the project's primary color. And set the unselected item color to the white color. Finally, as you can see, I add the items. For this, I place a bottom navigation bar item widget, add its icon, and set the condition for the icon color. And now I add the label. Label parameter is equal to home. And now I repeat this process for the other items. I reload the project and you can see the result. I've pushed the code I written so far to the GitHub and will include the GitHub link in the description. Now let's implement the banner slider together. For this, I add these two packages you see to the project and call the popget command. Then I create a Cubit class to manage the current slider index, named banner slider Cubit. Implement the state class, import the carousel slider controller, and then go to the Cubit class, call the state class, set the selected index to 0, and now I create a method to handle slider changes. Now I create a new file for banner slider and provide the Cubit class I just created inside it, and start implementing the widget. I add a center widget and a size box widget. I limit the width of the size box on large devices and set its width equal to the screen width on smaller devices. Now I add a column widget and call the carousel slider widget from the package I added earlier. And now I go to the data directory, create a new directory named data source, and inside it, create a directory named local. Then I create a file for sample data and add a list of banner images inside it. Now I use the image I added, as you can see. Then I add the slider options to it. You can change these options based on your needs. And finally, I pass the controller I placed in the state class to the slider widget. Alright, now let's implement the indicator. I call the animated smooth indicator widget and set its active index and count parameters, as you can see. Active index parameter is equal to watch dot state dot current index, and count parameter is equal to banners dot length. And finally, I pass the desired effect to it. You can read the package documentation and use any effect you need. Now I return to the home class, add a scroll widget, place a column widget, and then call the slider widget we implemented together. I reload the project and you can see the results so far. Now let's implement the top brand section. I go to the sample data file and add the data I need for the brands. Then I create a new file for the top brands widget. I import the material package and add a stateless class, and inside it I place a column widget, add a spacing between the items, cross-axis alignment is equal to cross-axis alignment dot start. Now I add a padding widget and add a horizontally padding, and inside it I add a text widget for the top brand's title. Now I add a size box widget and set its height to 34. Then inside it, I place a list view builder widget to display the brands list. Item count is equal to brands dot length. Scroll direction is equal to axis dot horizontal. Shrink wrap true. And now I implement the item builder parameter. I put a padding widget, and then place an inkwell widget to make the brands clickable. And set the border radius around it to 16 pixels. And inside the inkwell widget, I add a container widget, give it a color with the condition that if the index is 0, it uses the primary color, otherwise it's white. And then I add a internal horizontal padding to it. Now I add a center widget and inside it a text widget, and I read and display the brand names from the brands list and style the text. Finally, I return to the home file and display the widget I created for the brands. I refresh the project and you can see the result. The widget I created has some issues, which I'll fix it. And the font size of the title is larger than the size specified in the design, so I'll correct it. Font size is equal to 16. I reload the project and you can see the result. Now let's implement the car list section. This section consists of two nested lists. The first one is for the title and the second one is for the cars. I close the extra files and create a new file for the car list on the home page. I import the material package and add a stateless class inside it. Now I add a list view.builder widget and then I go to the data file and add the data needed for this section, as you can see. Inside the list view builder widget, I set the item count parameter equal to the number of title lists. Shrink wrap true, and then I disable the lists scrolling. And then implement the item builder parameter. I add a column widget and set its alignment to start. Then add the title and import the required classes. Now I return to the home file, add the widget I created, and refresh the project. And you can see the result. Now let's implement the car list together. First, after the title row, I add a new horizontal list that iterates through the car brand list I added earlier. Now I start implementing inside this list. First, I add a row widget. Cross-axis alignment is equal to cross-axis alignment dot start. Now I add some spacing inside it. And inside the padding widget, I add a column widget. I set its alignment to start and set its spacing to 8. Now I add a text widget to display the car's brand and name. First, I read the brand names with the brand key. And then the car names with the name key from the list. And then I style the name widget and set its color to white. Now I add a row widget and set a 4 pixel spacing between its items and start implementing the car rental cost section. As you saw earlier, I add a list for prices. And now I read the prices from that list and set the font size to 16. and I add another text to indicate that the displayed cost is per day. I add horizontal spacing again. And I put a padding widget with vertical spacing. Inside the padding widget, I add a size box widget with a height of 64 to display the car image inside it. Now I reload the project to fix the issue and correctly identify the widgets. I reload the project and you can see the result. Finally, I add a row widget, set the spacing between its items to 16, and now I add two buttons for renting the car and reviewing its details as per the Figma design. I also add some extra spacing at the bottom of the screen. I reload the project and you can see the final result. Thank you for watching. If this video was helpful to you, please subscribe to my channel and like and share the video. And hit the bell icon to get notifications for future videos. I will see you again in the next video.